Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about.
Everything theater. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And one of these days, I'm going to say we're talking about football. I'm just telling you, Ellen.
And I'll probably just keep going, not even notice because I'm so used to our
or,
routine.
or what do you think about that? The creation of the elite soccer teams in Europe, and it's. But look, the world's starting to reopen in theater, and this is exciting. And a lot of theaters are still trying to figure out how to do that because of the constraints as to how many people you can put in the theater, and you've got to make money in order to do that. And you and I had been chatting a couple weeks ago with the delightful David Kenner, who's got a theater, a theater that he runs in New York City, and he talked about comedy as being king right now because everybody's had enough, drama in their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what comes into the inbox but this audition notice, and it's now passed, from the Trojan Womyn Productions for Burlesque Gothique.
There you go. That's what.
And we said, oh yeah, we gotta. And the inimitable Susan Preiss is the co-producing artistic director for this. Hi there, Susan.
Hello. How are you?
We're vertical and getting paychecks, and that's not bad.
That's good. Both on both counts.
Excellent. How have you survived during the pandemic?
By breathing.
So I'm going to jump in both feet. Burlesque Gothique.
Burlesque Gothique.
Okay, yeah. What is, why, give us, and why now?
Okay, well, so first things first, it is a project that is being put together by a small company that I and Marisa Ledesma Henry run, called Trojan Womyn Productions. We have two of our original co-founding members, Acrylic Facade and Damona Blackheart Lattice, who are basically permanent members of Trojan Womyn Productions. And they help us out they are amazing performers, and they give us, they help with finding venues and performers and all kinds of stuff. So primarily we do drag shows, and we started doing drag shows basically in Troy about, I want to say 3 to 4 years ago. And then we started doing a drag brunch at Amacosina in Albany. And then we started doing drag shows at D&L Hospitality in Cohoes. Along the way, we did a burlesque show at D&L, and what it sort of ended up becoming was this combination of drag and burlesque performances. And it was on Halloween. It was the last show we were able to do before the State Liquor Authority and everybody kind of changed their mind and said, no, you can't have people in your establishment for live performances. So this is last Halloween. And I liked the way that it came out so much. And I got so many great comments on what a great combination it was. I thought, I should create something that is this combination hybrid. So the name Burlesque Gothique came out of a fantasy that I had a couple of years ago about putting together a burlesque show that was kind of 9-inch nails in a bustle dress. And so the concept for Burlesque Gothique is not strictly Victorian clothing, but this mashup of burlesque and drag that I hope is going to be like half your big toe over the line. So
Susan, I have to ask, and I'm going to refer to it as straight theater only and I'm not meaning it sexually, but you come out of
okay,
straight theater.
yes.
Um, community productions, I know because I've had the good fortune to, trod the boards with you. And then you moved into more experimental work. You and Michael had been doing stuff at not QE2 in Albany.
Yeah,
Was it
yeah,
QE2?
yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks in the community may be aware of that. And it was more avant-garde. You were leaving behind, the name playwrights, but the metamorphosis. Take us through that metamorphosis to get to this point.
Well, the what you're referring to that I had going on at QE2, and this was way back in the heyday. So it was late 80s, early 90s. The reason Michael Noonan and I started, it was called the Queen's Theater, and we performed at QE2, was because we were getting a little tired of the glass menagerie. Um, you know, love the classics. They're wonderful and they're important and they have their place. But there's only so many times you can go see the glass menagerie, for example, before you go, did anybody write anything else?
Mm.
So what we wanted to do was do more modern pieces that were more contemporary to the times, the 80s, that addressed more contemporary issues, the AIDS crisis, politics, relationships in that kind of in that era. So we focused on doing shows that nobody else would do, either because the subject matter wasn't exactly what the particular producing company wanted to do, or because they were smaller casts. And big thing with community theater is, they want to include as many people as humanly possible, which is obviously fantastic. But sometimes there's a great two-person play, but they don't really want to do it because it's only two people. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how QE2 came about. Fast forward to, 2015, 2016, and um, I met Marisa doing another show, and she and I got to be good friends. And she was very in tune with the LGBTQ community, and in particular, the drag community. And so we got to talking, and I went to a couple of shows with her, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. These people are amazing. The the amount of time and effort that these performers put into every detail, from their choreography to costuming to wigs to makeup, it's amazing. And I was watching a show one night, I think it was at Rocks, and I thought, no, it wasn't that long ago that this was way underground, because it was dangerous.
Right.
It was literally dangerous for these performers to do something that they love to do and that brings happiness and joy to a lot of people. And somehow between Marisa and I, we just said, you know what, let's do it. Let's do our own shows.
Now, do you write a loose script for this, or is sometimes you just had now for the Burlesque Gothique? Your audition was you said you're creating an ensemble company,
Right,
highlighting group and individual performances.
right.
So, how much of what you will be producing from this audition will be scripted versus your performers bringing their own act?
The performers bring most of their own stuff. That's my vision for it. So if someone is a drag performer, they bring their own material. If someone is a burlesque performer, they bring their own material. And a choreographer will create group numbers. They could include the entire cast, or they could be duets or trios or whatever. So in my head, and we'll see how this all actually pans out, but in my head, there are solo performances so that each member of the company gets to highlight what they do. And then there are group numbers where everybody gets to participate. And it's kind of like there's a company called the Suicide Girls. So it's a little bit like that, where there's group numbers, there's individual numbers. One of the members kind of is the MC of the show, but it's not a scripted thing. It's like, oh, you have a new number that you've been working on? Let's see it. Let's work it into the show, or I'm getting a little tired of seeing this particular number, and I just so happened to hear this cool song on the radio. Here, choreographer, see what you can do. Is this a group number? Is this a duet? Is this for 4 people, 3 people? You tell me. Let me see what you got. Let's put it in the show if we like it.
You don't have a home.
No.
You peripatetic. It's wherever you can go with who opens the doors. What kind of a challenge is this time with limited seating based on, rules and regs? I mean, now at least we can stay open till midnight, but what kind of a challenge is that posting?
It's huge. It's a huge challenge. One of the venues that we used to perform at no longer exists. They closed. They're closed for good.
Which one?
Amacosina in Albany.
Oh, yeah.
Huge loss to not just for us, but for that area, because it's tremendous. And one of the other places that we would perform at, we would do some of our more daring shows there. We had a show that we would call Taboo. The owner is kind of walking on eggshells because I don't know if this is justified or not, but he feels like the city where he's at is like just looking for a reason to shut him down.
Susan, do they strip when you say burlesque?
I know.
Because though some of the things you were saying about, sort of walking the edge, I wondered if there was a removal of clothing.
Really, it depends. What we like to do at Trojan Womyn is tailor our shows to whatever the venue or occasion might be. So for example, when we were doing brunches, we would tone the drag shows down a little bit, lean more heavily on the comedy and the movement and the lip syncing, and not so much heavy on dance and things like that. And it'd be a little bit less body, call it body. The place that we were performing that we're not sure if we're going to be able to go back to, it was a bar. They had an outdoor space and we could do whatever we wanted. So, no full frontal, please. But there was a lot of space where the performers could really do their dance moves and death drops, and we would have fire dancers for some shows, and it was awesome. So, and that's why we called it Taboo, because it was like that was your space to like just play, just create, go as crazy as you want without taking off all your clothes. And when we did the burlesque show at DNL Hospitality, it wasn't so much a striptease as it was risque, let's call it that. There were a couple of the performers that would come down to, a G-string and a little things there,
Beasties.
pasties, yeah. But for the most part, we try to keep it more clothes on. Less is
Mhm.
more. More is better.
Well, listen, that's how Gypsy Rose Lee made her career.
Well, exactly.
She got close to, but left you wanting more. And
Exactly.
so there's a long history of this.
That's exactly the it's exactly the kind of burlesque show that I'm hoping and I'm going to be working on putting together this summer to perform at Eat in the Street in Cohoes, along with Melanie Diaz, who runs Cafe Con Mel and DNL Hospitality, which is a great catering event company. So, yeah.
So if you were doing the Glass Menagerie, right, the director is going to be looking for certain qualities in performers when they come into audition. What makes, in your opinion, a successful drag or burlesque performer? What are you looking for in those auditions that makes you feel they would be a good member for your company?
Um, I want to see somebody like bring their best, leave it all out there on the stage. Um, I want to see how you move. I want to know that you can learn how to dance, that you're willing to learn what you don't already know. A lot of it is less what you look like and more your like work ethos. So I talk to people like, are y- is this is something that you're going to have to make a commitment to being able to do? You know, I mean, a lot of drag and burlesque performers in this area are used to having somebody call them up and go, "Hey, can you do a show on Friday night?" And they show up and they do 2 or 3 numbers and they go home. Burlesque Gothique is not going to be like that. The other shows that we do, back alley burlesque is what we call our regular burlesque show. And rendezvous is what we've always called the drag show that we do in Cohoes. Those shows are, hey, can you do a show on Friday? And you show up and you do your thing and you go home. Burlesque Gothique is going to be a whole different kind of beast. It's not something that I think a lot of the performers in the area are used to. It's like, yeah, you have to be at rehearsal
Hmm.
from 7 to 10, 2 to 3 nights a week. It's a commitment. You have to be willing to learn from the other people in the company. You have to be willing to learn from a choreographer. This is not show up on Friday or Saturday night, an hour after I told you to be there. Go on stage, get a cocktail and go home. That's different. It's a very new and different kind of thing than what Trojan Womyn has done for the last few years. But Benita, you brought up an interesting thing about writing a script, because when we started out, what we did, we performed at Troy Kitchen and we did what we called drag theater. And so we would come up with an idea, like Love is a Drag. And the performers would come with songs. And then we would kind of loosely string them together to tell a story. So we've got that in our back pocket too.
So how did auditions go? And
Well,
well,
sadly,
okay, settle in, everybody.
yeah, sadly, we actually had to cancel our auditions because
Oh,
we lost the space that we were going to
Oh,
perform in,
no.
or audition in rather. So that was sad, but I'm working really, really hard to reschedule those auditions, because I really want to work on this. I really want to get this together. And that's another thing with space being such a difficulty. It's not just performing space. It's not just, what venues are willing to do something like what we do, given the restrictions. But is there any place we can actually go to rehearse and audition? And that's been very difficult.
Are spaces, owners of spaces, are they fearful? Or they just don't get it? Or is it a little bit of both?
I think in the current atmosphere, I think that I mean, I can't presume to go know exactly what's going on in a venue owner's head, or restaurant owner's head, or whatever, but if it were me, what I would be thinking of is, okay, this sounds really cool and fun and interesting, but I can only have so many people in here. So is it worth it for me to have the staff on for maybe a night when we maybe wouldn't normally be open? Am I going to have to deal with, does the number of performers and the company's staff count towards my capacity? Because, we usually have at least 4 performers. There's our audio person, me, I do the lighting, a box office person, a stage manager, and inevitably, somebody decides they need someone to zip them up. And so they,
Well, listen, that's very important.
yes, so they bring whoever their current, best friend is. And it's like, oh, hi, who are you? So
Susan,
that's,
you need to make notes and write a book. Is anyone else doing, look, drag shows are ubiquitous, but is anyone else that you're aware of, marrying it to burlesque in this sense?
not that I'm aware of. I have not seen it. I have not heard it. I think this is a unique notion.
And have you put on the corset and the platforms and
Not
taken
yet.
the turn? Not yet. Susan, what are you waiting for?
To lose the COVID-19 I gained last year.
As I always tell people, it's all yours. Celebrate it. Now I've got to find out. My old hairdresser did drag. I wonder if he's performing with you. And Ivana Douche, is Ivana performing with? Oh yes.
No, we've asked Ivana a bunch of times, but she's never really been available when we've had the shows. But we keep asking. We've had Carmi Hope and Frida Munch on. We've had one of our founding members was Chardonnay Latiz. She passed away a couple of years ago.
I think, Susan, I'm going to jump in. I think perhaps a lot of people don't realize that there has been a very long-standing and active drag show circuit, for lack of a better term, but it's really been it's been vital.
Yes. And one of the things Trojan Womyn really wants to do is to bring it to places where you wouldn't necessarily see it. It's in this area anyway. Drag shows have really kind of been limited to places like Rocks and Waterworks, and we want to bring it to places that like never thought of it before, like
Tylerville.
Yeah, I mean, and the main reason for wanting to do that is to bring it, because it's really it's a legitimate art form that really needs to be seen and appreciated. And I think that the more the communities see it and are able to appreciate, the more barriers get broken down. And we're all about breaking down those barriers. Let's face it, there's a lot of homophobia out there. There always will be. But if you can get, one guy or one lady that never in a million years thought that they would go to, find themselves at a drag show and love it and want to come back, that's a huge accomplishment. I just changed somebody's mind.
Well, now you've got to keep us posted as to when your show will go up.
I will.
Because you're looking, hey, listen, you ought to talk to David Gerard, over at the Troy Foundry Theater. They're also always, pack the bags and find a new home. And
well,
talk about a traveling troupe, the two of you.
There is hope. There's hope. Melanie Diaz and I have become very good friends, and she's incredibly supportive of Trojan Womyn. And the city of Cohoes is very supportive of Trojan Womyn. So we are very hopeful that we will have a home very soon. And that it will be the start of something really terrific for Cohoes. It's great. Park Playhouse is there now in the music hall. That's fantastic. And they can have the kids. Give me the adults. Give me the grown-ups.
There you go. And I know Ellen's got some questions for you now.
Well, go for it, Ellen. Let's see if I can answer your question.
All right. So this is the segment called The Close-Up, and it's just some quick fire questions, just all about you, Susan. Oh. So are you ready for your close-up?
Okay, go for it.
I love that voice. So what was the moment for you, Susan, that you just knew you wanted to do theater with your life?
I was 13. And I was in my very first play, and I stepped out on stage and I opened my mouth to say my first line, and it came out of my mouth and everyone was listening, and I thought, this is it. This is it. This it. And there's 500 people out there and they're all listening to me and they're not going anywhere. I'm doing this for my life.
What was the play?
Oh my God, it was so cute. It was called The Laughing Ghost. It was like this cute little mystery play. And I was the lead and I figured out the mystery. Like, why was all this spooky laughter? Oh, silly people. There's a record player or a tape recorder or something hidden somewhere.
And what did your parents think when you're like, I'm gonna go and do theater?
Oh, they were like, right. Sure you are. they, like my whole family laughed at me. I remember I was like, it was dinner time. We're sitting all at their table and I'm like, I know what I want to do. I want to be an actress. And like they were like, ha. Yeah, not supportive.
Yeah.
What after all this time on pause, as you said, you're really looking forward to bringing these stories that people don't know, this kind of theater that people aren't as familiar with. What personally do you want to go and see as soon as the theaters are open again? What are you looking forward to going to see?
Oh my God, anything. Anything except maybe Shrek. I don't Shrek. Really, I'd be happy. It's sharing that energy with the audience and with the actors on stage. That's the big thing. That's the thrill. Movies, not the same thing for me. Mm-hmm. So, really it's like anything.
What's your biggest whoops that's happened on stage, either to you or someone that you saw either in audience or on stage with, that things didn't go right?
Oh my goodness. So many. The legendary oops actually happened backstage though. Matt Morose, I think, still talks about it. Do you want me to share that one?
Sure.
Go ahead. And for those who don't know, Matt has directed countless shows for community theater in the capital region, very ably, I must say.
Yeah, he's
So,
terrific.
so what happened, Susan?
So Matt and I were doing a play called A Bright Room Called Day at Albany Civic Theater. Michael Noonan directed it. The late Carole King was in it. Phil Rice was in it. And intermission comes and goes, and it's places for Act Two. Now, backstage at Albany Civic Theater, there's a big staircase that goes up to the dressing rooms. So I'm coming down the stairs, and I get about halfway down the stairs, and I go, oh, expletive deleted. I forgot to change my costume. Everybody heard it, I'm told. So that happened. Another good one was I was doing How I Learned to Drive, and we performed at the Black Box at the Art Center in Troy. And the play opens with my character doing this huge monologue, and it's very serious. And I walk out on stage, and now the seating is like, it's the stage and the seats. It's like California, mountains, ocean, nothing in between. And of course, with the lights in your face, you can't really see past the first row. So I'm doing this monologue, and I'm doing my blocking, and I'm like crisscrossing the stage. So I go cross stage left, da da da, cross stage right. And I'm looking at the audience, and I see a pair of bare feet hanging over the back of the seat in front of them. I almost lost my mind laughing. I don't know how I managed to get myself through that monologue, because it was the funniest thing I had ever seen from the stage in my life. So there was that as well.
Oh my goodness.
That's just two
I love it.
out of a million.
And last real quick, what's a dream role that in your future?
I would love to play Martha in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Love. I think that would be a fitting role to cap off a career on stage as I move behind the scenes.
Bravo.
I haven't done a lot of on stage in the last few years. I think the last thing I did was be seen at Schenectady Civic, I think 2019. I know it was the before times.
Before time. Did you ever play Honey in Virginia Woolf? You would have been a marvelous Honey.
Thank you.
Back in the day.
Poor Honey.
She can always do burlesque now.
This is true. I actually do have an idea for what I would do, but it'll be a surprise.
Well, keep us posted.
I certainly will. I'm really hoping, working very, very hard to get my auditions back up and running, to get everything, to get Burlesque Gothic cast, and look for us in Cohoes for Eat in the Street, probably starting more towards the end of May. Eat in the Street in Cohoes on Remsen Street starts the beginning of May, runs through October. So we're thinking maybe the end of May. We're going to be picking dates probably next week. So.
Sounds wonderful. Keep us posted. Susan Preiss, on the stage, behind the stage, impresario.
I wish.
It's great to see you. Wonderful to
Great
have you with
to see you
us.
too, honey. Oh my God, I miss you. I think of you all the time.
Back at you. See, that's the beauty of the podcast. We get an opportunity to reconnect.
Yes,
Susan,
absolutely.
thank you. And thank you all for joining us for this edition of, and truly is, Everything Theater. I'm Benita Zahn.
I'm Ellen Cribbs. Talk to you next time.